Okay, you've completed drawing all your parts for your ROV and downloading the remaining fittings from McMaster Carr. We're ready to get started on a new type of file, an assembly. I have Solidworks open. I'm going to go to File, go to New, and I'm going to select the Assembly option. Hit OK. The first thing it's going to do is ask me to pull some parts into my assembly. You may have a dialog box that looks like that. So we're going to hit the Browse button and we're going to find our folder in our student folder. So get to your student folders, find your name, and find your IT folder and your Perch folder, and hopefully you've stored everything and named everything appropriately within this folder. Alright, the first piece that you bring in is going to be a base fitting, or base part rather. I'm going to go ahead and pull a T fitting in to start. And if I hit this green check, it's going to place it right on the origin there, and I'm good to go. We can now bring in some additional parts, and in order to do that, if we hit the Assembly tab and hit Insert Components, we can select our elbow. And again, I'm going to click and hit the check, insert some more components. We need the 5-inch section. As a matter of fact, if you want, you can hold the Shift key down and select all of them. Oops, I'm sorry, the Control key. And select all of these. And I'm going to hit Open. And now when I click, it's going to pull each of these in. And I should have all of my parts. Alright, let's take a look. I've got a 4.5, a 5. I think I may have accidentally pulled in the 5B, which I was giving a demo on, so I'm going to delete that one. If you did accidentally pull something in that doesn't belong, you can delete it. Let's take a look at the list to make sure that we have everything that we need, and I'm going to compare that to our PDF. Suggest, if you haven't done so, to go into Canvas and download your Perch PDF so we can see what this thing's going to look like fully assembled. This picture here shows us all of the parts that we need and where each of the parts goes, so I think it'll be easy for us to use. So we have 1.5-inch parts, I have those. We have 2.5-inch parts, I have those. We have 4-inch parts. 4.5-inch parts are these, and then we have 5s. There's two different 5s. We have 5s with holes and 5s without holes. I'm not sure I did that. And then we have the 6.5. So we may need to make another 5 without the holes, and I can show you how to do that if need be. Alright, so it's important that when you created these parts you name them correctly, because it's going to make the assembly go that much easier. Alright, going back to, let's start with these T's on the bottom. We're going to have 1.5 inch, a T, a 4, a T, an 1.5 inch. So let's go ahead and build that and see what that's going to look like. Okay, you're going to go to the Mate command. Make sure you have nothing selected. You can hit the Escape key. And we're going to go to the Mate command, and once this comes up, the Solidworks will automatically understand in most cases what kind of mate we want, so we don't need to necessarily select them. If you see here, I've got, make sure this is cleared. If I select the outer part of this 1.5-inch section and then select the inner part of this, it automatically makes a concentric mate. So we're going to hit the green check here or here, either one. I'm going to select this one. And you can see that this part is now restricted to be concentric with that. Now inside here, there is a little stop in this fitting, and we can mate that surface to this surface here. Now for those of you who are new to SolidWorks, you should spend a couple minutes with the center button of your mouse, the scroll button. If you roll it in or out, you can zoom in and out on things. All right, and notice wherever I put my cursor, that's what I zoom in on. Okay. If you hold that same button down and you rotate left to right, you can spin it in this manner. If you hold the button down and move up and down, you can spin it in this manner. So that makes you know, a little bit of practice with that center mouse button is going to make you much more efficient at building assemblies, because you're going to need to rotate this thing back and forth. Again, I've got this cleared. I'm going to come in here and grab this face, and I want that face to bump up against this face inside here. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, now I'm going to grab one of the 4-inch sections, which I believe is this guy. Oop, not that one. Clear that. Oops, not that one. Where is it? You know what? Clear out of here. Do I have it? There it is. Okay. Go back to mate. Clear that out. I want this section. Try that again. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it concentric. I'm going to select this guy. Go to here. Hit OK. Once again, we want to mate those two faces. So I'm going to select this face, hit OK. Now you can see from our PDF document that we need more T's and we need more elbows. Very easy to create some extra T's. I'll show you how that goes. Get out of my mate command for a second. If I hold the control button down and then click and drag at the same time, I can pull in a few more T's. I can do the same thing with my elbows. And I can do the same thing with these because we're going to need more of these 4-inch and 1.5-inch pieces. So just click on them and drag, and we can make as many as we need. All right, let's go back to putting things together. So I'm going to hit the mate command. I'm going to select this T. Select this. It's going to do a concentric mate. Once again, we want to mate up those faces. So I'm going to come inside here and select this. And this. Looks good. We need another 1.5 on the end. So I'm going to select this and this. Make those concentric. Pull this guy out and select these. Hit OK. Now you're going to need to make 2 of those. One for the left side, one for the right side. So we've got that part set. Let's go ahead and put a corner on here and work our way around. So I need one of these elbows. I'm just going to drag it, click and drag it over here, and select this and this, and it's going to make those concentric. Again, we want the faces here. And when you build this thing for real, you're going to try to push these fittings together so that they line up nice and tight. Oops, looks like there's a little bit of overlap on that T fitting. I'm going to undo that. Control Z, just like most programs, is a good undo. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and select this face this time and this face, because they're not going to go past each other in the real world. Just going to butt those 2 up. Hit OK. And if you look at the PDF document down here, you can see that these pieces are butted into each other. So we're going to put another one of those 90s right over here. So select the cylinder, select the inside of the elbow. It'll put a concentric mate on. Hit OK. Select the face of the T, face of the elbow, and we're all set. We need to put a 4.5-inch section into here and then build a similar feature on the other side. We also can start going up. I'm going to cut this video here and see if you guys can figure some of this out on your own. You've got this to work with. Do your best to make sure that the ends are correctly oriented. Maybe I'll give you one quick sneak peek on how to do that. I want to make sure that you've got, you can see here that the holes are on the lower side of these 5-inch pieces. So why don't I do one of those just to show you how to reorient one of those, and then I'll set you off on your own to do this. So as we look at this part, I'm going to get out of the mate command for a moment. This part right here is my 4.5, this is my 5, and I would say that the holes are closer to this side, and I want them to be lower in this piece. So I'm going to hit escape, deselect that. I'm going to come back to my mate command, and I'm going to go ahead and select this cylinder again and select one of these T's. Now once I hit the check box, you can see that in my case I did get the holes on the lower side, but if I didn't do that, there's a way for me to flip that. So when you're in, let me go ahead and delete that. I'll start from scratch. If I select this and I want these to be concentric and it puts it in upside down, I'll show you how we can flip it back over. I'm going to select those two. Before I hit the green check, let's say mine was upside down. If I hit this box, it's just going to flip it over for me. Now I've got my holes close to the top. Alright, if I flip it back, it got my holes close to the bottom. So you can change the orientation of that. Alright, next we want to go ahead and mate up these faces. Okay, and the final trick is going to be, how do we get the holes to line up in the correct orientation? And for this we're going to need to use some reference geometry. So let me show you what that looks like. Going to come into our T, this T right here, and notice that there's a plane in here, my front plane. And that front plane is what I'm going to use to mate up with a plane in this part. So if I click on this part, that's this 5-inch section here. If I open this up, I can see that plane isn't going to work. That one would work nicely. So I want to mate the top plane of this 5-inch section with the front plane of my T. So in my design tree over here, Feature Manager, I'm going to open up the T fitting by clicking this little caret. I'm going to find that front plane, and then I'm going to click on this part so I know which 5-inch section I'm referring to, because I have more of them. And I'm going to select the top plane. So I got to get back into my mate command. In order to find those now, I have to click on this caret, which opens up my feature tree again. Go back up to my for my 5-inch section, I want the top plane, and for my 1.5-inch section, oops, not that, for my T fitting rather, I want the front plane. And if I hit OK, by clicking that green box, you'll see now that my holes no longer rotate and that I have mated those pieces together in a way that's going to lock them up. Now, I guess I'm going to give you one more bit of advice before we move on, and that is, if you mate something incorrectly and it's stuck somewhere where you don't want it to be, you need to know how to undo that. say I accidentally put this elbow on here and it was supposed to be a different part, or this was the wrong part. If you right click on a part and go to View Mates, which is the paper clip with the eye, it'll tell me all of the mates that are associated with that part, and you'll notice it also highlights the other features that I've mated it to. So the first thing I did was create a concentric mate with that. The next thing I did was a coincident mate that put those two faces together. And finally, I made a coincident mate between those two planes, which allowed those parts to stay oriented without rotating. If I wanted to get rid of any one of these, I can just right click on it and delete it. So if I delete this mate, get a little warning here. If I say yes, my part now can come in and out. It still remains concentric and my planes are still coincident, so I can't rotate, but I can extend it in and out. I'm going to go back and put that mate back in by, whoops, make sure you clear that when you're starting, by selecting that face and this guy. All right. Doing assemblies is a little tricky at first, so don't get frustrated. But once you get the hang of it, it's kind of fun. It's kind of like playing with Legos. So I'm going to let you go off on your own. You know, I'll be in the back of the room, so if you need a hand, just give me a holler and I'll help you out.